Okay, everyone, it's 5:30, the appointed hour. Welcome to Council meeting number 4 for Tuesday, February 4. And just a note that today, according to some sources at least, it's World Cancer Day. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And we do have regrets from Councillor McKelvey, and the latest agenda indicates that Councillor Rudenberg was coming in by either regrets or by Zoom, so it's good to see you here in person.
Thank you.
I'd like to recognize that we meet on the traditional territory of the LHTAKO DENE Nation. I will be looking for a motion to approve the agenda, but before that, I will note that there are 2 amendments. There is an addition to Council Reports J1 2025 BC Natural Resources Forum, Councillor Elliott to report. And also, there's an addition to our council information package, L1, Item 3, January 28th, 2025, Heritage BC Heritage Week, February 17 to 23, 2025. So, with those amendments, a motion to approve the agenda, moved by Councillor Runge, seconded by Councillor Vick. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. The next item is the adoption of the minutes. And this is a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting held January 14, 2025. Councillor Elliott, Councillor Goulet. Any discussion? All in favor? Go ahead. Good catch.
That's what it says here, so sorry.
Okay, so we're going to move, now the seconder is going to move to the firster, so I'm looking for, Councillor Vick is going to second that one. So we've got that all straightened around. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so we do not have any presentations. We have no delegations. We have no items arising from previous special closed meetings. We have no unfinished business, but we do have some committee reports, and we will first go to Councillor Vick for a report on the Financial Sustainability and Audit Committee report for the meeting held January 15.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the purpose of this report is to provide some highlights from our last meeting we had, which seems like a long time ago, January 15th. And I'll preface this by saying we have an FSAC meeting tomorrow, so a lot of what I'll discuss we're going to be working on hard tomorrow as well. So obviously the biggest topic was our operating budget for 2025. The tentative, the first pass, is roughly an increase of 8.6% over last year for taxation, which is a serious number. But obviously, this is our first pass where we've asked staff to go back and see what can be done, some efficiencies, discretionary spending, all of the above. And I look forward to our meeting tomorrow. I know Carrie and team have been working really hard to help us with this. So what's driving the increase this year? First and foremost, it's inflationary pressure by labor costs. We have a new collective agreement with our unions, which is a 5% increase in wages in June 2024, to be followed by subsequent increases in the subsequent years in the collective agreement. So that's some pressure. Then there are some things that we noted that we're hoping we can find some efficiencies with. Our downtown washroom has a significant cost with janitorial and security costs. We also took a look at the rental revenue with some of the leases of our city-owned buildings. As those leases come up, we're going to look at those agreements. So it's just a lens of being prudent in the future with those agreements as they come up. Also with pressures on the budget, including the airport and transit functions, both require significant increases over last year to have those functions continue and operate as they should. And then, of course, we have a few supplemental requests, which we will also be taking a closer look at tomorrow. So basically, we're heading back at this tomorrow, when I'll be reporting back at the next council meeting on tomorrow's work. Moving away from budget, we talked about a summary of our revitalization tax exemptions. Specifically, we've had some really good developments in the community over the last few years with Silver Manor, Kekanaw Apartments, and also the Stepping Stone Apartments right on Bowen Avenue. And those, in large part, were possible because of our revitalization tax exemption program with the City of Quesnel. We then looked at some correspondence from Quesnel Search and Rescue. They asked for an increase to their annual fee. They were looking for an increase from $14,750 to $17,950, which matches the contribution from our CRD partners. The last increase was about 5 years ago. And basically, they are suffering increased cost pressures that the City of Quesnel is suffering. And the extra bit of funding will help them meet their mandate, which is to provide a critical service in our area for search and rescue. So we'll move to a recommendation regarding the last topic I just discussed, which was that contribution. And I would move a recommendation that the Finance, Sustainability, and Audit Committee recommends to Council that the annual fee to the Quesnel Search and Rescue Society be increased to $17,950 in 2025.
Okay, so that's moved and seconded. Councillor Elliott, any questions, comments? Councillor Rudenberg.
Thank you. It's not about the recommendation. I was hoping to ask a question about a piece in the report, so I'm not sure if this is the time to ask it or wait until that recommendation is passed or voted on.
Okay, so are we ready to vote on the motion then? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, Councillor Rudenberg.
Thank you. Councillor Vic, could you just explain, and I apologize for not being able to attend your last meeting, around the cost pressures for our airport and transit functions? What is that? What is pushing those cost drivers?
Well, I think I'll defer to Director Bolton on that, but yeah, there is an increase in both those functions. For airport, we're looking at a 14.9% increase over last year, so that's another $70,000. And transit is a 22% increase, which is $117,000 over last year. So, Director Bolton, if I could lean on you for some of the
Sure,
specifics.
I can start, and Director Norman might want to add too. So with both of those functions, we did have COVID grants over the COVID years, so that funding is now run out. So now we're back to normal operations, although operations aren't quite up to what they used to be at the airport. And yeah, it's just the challenges. Transit costs have gone up substantially, fuel, all those sort of things. So they're facing the same increases that we have, but we're getting hit pretty well all at once because the COVID grant funding was helping us over the last few years.
And thank you for that, because I think people need to understand that we did rely on that COVID funding for many different pieces of our budget over the past year or two. So that it's like when you play with your surplus and you realize that you end up getting hit in the face the next year because you've used it. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Ready to move along to the next item. And this is my report. It's a summary of the Public Safety and Policing Committee meeting held January 21. There was a discussion. The Fire Chief Reichert provided the committee with a verbal update on the Canadian Ranger Patrol Group and their role and services in the Quesnel and area. And RCMP Office Manager Human Resources Support. Staff Sergeant Wassine provided a verbal update on the need for an Office Manager Human Resources Support employee at the detachment to support municipal employees. There are no recommendations coming out of this. I'll open the floor to questions, if anyone. Go ahead, Councillor Rudenberg.
Thank you. So provided a verbal update for the need of an additional person to work over there at the detachment. And there's no recommendations coming from that? Or is that going to finance?
No, there's not. And go ahead, Councillor Runge.
So I believe that was deferred to FSAC, so FSAC's going to be discussing it in the budget.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
exactly where I was going with that. Go ahead, Carrie.
It actually went to FSAC first. It's a supplemental that's coming through the budget process. So, and then we also brought it to PSP just so that committee could discuss it as well. So we'll be discussing it again tomorrow.
Thank you. And if these planes keep canceling, I may be able to attend that meeting. Thanks.
Okay, I'm not seeing any more comments or questions, so we'll move on. As I said, there's no recommendations coming out of that report. The next report goes to Councillor Runge on the Accessibility Committee meeting held January 22.
Excellent, thank you. And you know what? Thanks to all the Accessibility Committee that isn't here for being at that meeting. We had a great group. We had a great meeting. And really what we were looking at, because we're still kind of in its infancy there. We're more or less a year in now. So we looked at the accessibility survey that we did last May, from May 25th to June 1st, and we left it open. And so our suggestion was that we close that survey so we get a piece of data that we can look at, and then in the future, open that survey up again next year for during Accessibility Week this year, and then we start collecting data that we can track going forward. And so from that came, so that will come a little bit in our priorities below, because the survey drove some of our priorities. Then we also looked at our accessibility plan, and we decided it's really time to just start putting everything on paper, getting it done, getting it from draft to design and layout, and then doing the final touches. We've been working on getting it going. Now we just want to wrap it up and say, hey, is this good enough? And then bring it to council. Well, we'll first go to the committee to see that it's okay, and then we'll go to council. So we have some priorities that came up for 2025 that the committee would like to look at, and and we're going to be studying them, and then there'll be recommendations that do or don't come to council depending on what they decide. So one is the enhanced accessibility in public washrooms. Then there's looking at Spark BC accessibility and inclusion awareness. The third topic was snow removal and access to laneways and transit. Fourth one was transit and handy dart priority seating, wheelchair access, and walker access. And then we also highlighted one additional priority, and that was to look at external grant funding options to support businesses to enhance accessibility to the various businesses in town, because costs are currently wouldn't be able to be covered by the city for things like that. So those are our priorities moving into 2025, and we do have a recommendation, and it's the accessibility survey results. The Accessibility Committee commits time annually to promote National Accessibility Week and an annual community engagement survey.
I don't know if that's really a recommendation. Basically, that's a commitment that is being made by the committee to do continuing work, but if you want to craft that into a recommation, well, go ahead.
I think the reason I think it's a recommendation is because it might actually require a little bit of staff time to be down there. Last year we had a couple people there during Accessibility Week, so I just that it's an FYI for council.
Okay, so are you moving that?
I guess so.
Okay, seconder? Thank you, Councillor Rudenberg. Are you okay with that as far as crafting that into a recommendation that we can vote on? Yes. Good. Okay. Any further discussion? No questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Thank you for that. Now we go to the January 29 Policing or Policy and Bylaw Committee. Electronic vote. Councillor Runge to report.
Yes, thank you. Following that brief intermission. So due to the fairly light schedule that we had on the meeting, and we had this one issue that had to be covered, and that's why we decided an electronic vote might be a much more efficient way to do that. So we had an electronic vote that looked at a property development proposal, a proposal that we've had previously at council and that had gone through an RFP, but since time had elapsed, we thought it would be best, in fairness to community and everybody and openness, to put this this out again. So the executive, so we sent an email to us for consideration of this with the recommendation that I'm going to state quickly, and it was passed by all of us. And the recommendation is that the Policy and Bylaw Committee recommends to Council that staff reissue a request for proposals for the city property on Neighbor Road to facilitate the development of a multi-housing development. Proposals will be brought to Council for final approval of disposition.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Runge. You've moved that, and who is seconding? Councillor Vic. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for that. Now we move over to council reports and discussion items. Item number 1, and this is a late agenda item, the 2025 BC Natural Resources Forum. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Chair. So this is my report from January 14th through 16th, the Natural Resources Forum. I was able to attend, and I'm glad that the city manager was also there. And it was a busy few days, I'll tell you. So we were able to have some meetings with Steve Morissette, MLA and Parliamentary Secretary for Rural Development, the Honourable Diana Gibson, Minister of Jobs, Economic Development and Innovation, and I had a good conversation with Minister Palmer of the Forestry, and he had been here the day before, I believe. So all are interested in doing tours. I'm sure Minister Palmer would like to come back as well, but like I said, he was just here the day before. So it was all about trying to move our agenda forward, let everybody know in the province, you know, what, well, in the north anyway, what we're working on. And so we advanced the Forestry Innovation Center activities, the interconnector, highlighted the province's investment in Providence Living new care beds in West Quesnel, as well as investments in childcare in the schools in the community. We also highlighted the city's continued reliance on the forestry sector and its industrial tax base, and the critical importance of caribou pulp and paper for sewage treatment for Quesnel and the CRD. We did a lot of speed dating whenever we could get a meeting with someone. So we were also able to touch base with senior representatives from the Ministry of Jobs regarding the economic case for the interconnector and next steps to make it a capital project for the Ministry of Transportation. The NASCO First Nations and relationship development between the city and NASCO, representatives from the Caribou Regional District of Fraser Fort George, Peace River Regional District, and City of Terrace, and others. And I should mention that Director Bachmeyer was there, and she's in the audience as well, so thank you for your representation. We connected with Forest Enhancement Society regarding partnership opportunities with First Nations in North Caribou, and also raised Dragon Mountain as a priority for Quesnel. The Community Energy Association and Quesnel's ongoing participation in North Can, the largest community-based energy transition network in BC. And we had conversations with the Port of Prince Rupert regarding key infrastructure improvements in northern BC, especially with the interconnector involved to serve the BC supply chain. We also talked briefly with them about NCLGA that's going to be in Prince Rupert and the possibility of doing some tours with council of that port, because it's very important infrastructure, and our tie-in with the interconnector is a big one with them. The Association of Minerals Exploration BC regarding permitting for exploration activities in North Caribou. UNBC's MBA program regarding a possible student industry day in Quesnel this summer. A leaders meeting with Artemis Gold for an extensive update, interconnector, more service providers, tours, and a Seco mine. Hydro transmission line, we talked about the line that's going out to Barkerville, the interconnector, of course, airport potential, maybe there was conversations about that years ago, and as they ramp up, we're hoping to get more activity at our airport with them. Timeline for the mine startup and potential housing needs. It was a great event. I enjoyed the dinner with the Premier and his speech, and it was a very united voice. There was a lot of conversations about the tariffs. I mean, it was a resource forum, so everyone was very, very concerned about what's going on. But all in all, a great conference, many connections with First Nations industry, the province, and local government. But having the city manager there and using both of our connections to move the city city's issues forward was very valuable. So thank you to Joel for being there. That's my report, just for information only.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott, and an excellent report. I'm really heartened to see the emphasis repeatedly on the interconnector. All I can say was that I wish I'd have been there, but that's for another day. So you've got no motion. Anybody else have a comment or a question? Okay, thank you. Moving along now to city staff reports. Admin report 19/25. Consus Forest Management Lease Agreement Manager Robinson to report.
Great, thank you, Mayor and Council. And there is a correction. It's no longer Consus Forest Management. It's actually Three Rivers Community Forest LLP, which you'll see in the body of the staff report. So the purpose of this report is to obtain council approval to enter into a lease agreement with the Three Rivers Community Forest LLP for use of office space on the second floor of City Hall building in the Forestry Innovation Center. I'll skip briefly to the summary points. It'll be the middle office on the second floor. The proposed lease will be for 1-year term. I know council prefers a longer term, but because the fledgling organization of the Three Rivers Community Forest isn't quite sure of their office needs yet, we are requesting a 1-year term. And the proposed lease rate is a bit higher than previously approved by council. It's $22 per square foot, and that's because this is an inclusive rate of all utilities and operational costs for this year. Financial implications will be revenue of $5,280 for the base rent for a 1-year term. And I'll pause there before moving on to the recommendation, Mayor.
You're pausing just looking for questions or comments? I don't see anything, so continue
Moving on to the recommendation.
Go ahead with the recommendation.
Okay, thank you. That council enter into an attached 1-year lease agreement with the Three Rivers Community Forest, LLP, for use of 200 square feet of office space on the second floor of the City Hall building, and that the mayor and corporate administrator be authorized to execute such documentation as required to complete the agreement.
Thank you for that. Moving, Councillor Elliott, you're moving, and Councillor Rudenberg is seconding. Any discussion, comments? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you for that. Now we go to Admin Report 23/25, West Fraser Timber Park Field House License of Occupation, Rock Tumblers. Director Norburn, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to obtain council approval to enter into an agreement with the Quesnel Tumbling Rivers Rock Club for use of the upper floor of the field house in West Fraser Timber Park. The city advertised an expression of interest seeking a nonprofit group to enter into a license of occupation to utilize the available space in the field house in West Fraser Timber Park that was vacated by the Baker Creek Enhancement Society when they relocated to the old lawn bowling building. Staff met with the two nonprofit organizations who submitted or replied to the expression of interest and confirmed that the two groups were willing to work together to share the space, with the Quesnel Tumbling Rivers Rock Club being the primary tenant. The draft agreement is for a 5-year term and is substantially similar to the previous agreement held with the Baker Creek Enhancement Society. Under the terms of the agreement, no rent will be charged, but the society will be responsible for all costs associated with maintenance of the building or their portion of the building, including utilities with the exception of water and sewer, and the club will be responsible for costs associated with any improvements that they make to the building. The recommendation is that council enter into the attached 5-year license of occupation with the Quesnel Tumbling Rivers Rock Club for their use of the upper floor of the field house in West Fraser Timber Park, and that the mayor and corporate administrator be authorized to execute such documentation as required to complete the agreement.
Okay, thank you for that. Moving, Councillor Runge. Councillor Rudenberg, you're seconding. You got there first. Councillor Runge, go ahead.
So, a question to Jeff. So, Jeff, does the field house have its own electric meter, independent electric meter to check hydro usage?
There is an electric meter for the building, but the building includes the concession, which is operated by girls softball, and the washrooms that are operated by the city. So there's no single meter, exclusive meter for the upper sort of portion of the building that would be used by these nonprofit organizations. So in lieu of that, we charge them an approximate fee of what we anticipate that cost would be, which is built into the agreement.
So the reason I ask that is because actually not all of the utilities are covered in the contract there. On page 25 of 54, it actually gives a rate for hydro to be used for the year, which isn't that bad, $16.50, I think, on the third paragraph down. What I'm worried about is, and no offense to the rock tumblers, but if I'm running 2 or 3 rock tumblers for 3 months to get or 1 month to get my rocks nice and smooth, that's a constant electric use. I just want to make sure that that's covered. So, if there'd be some way to put something in there to say, look, we know what the electric costs have been historically. If we're way off, if there's just an adjustment option fairly quickly, like if it's $200 or $300 or $400 a month, then we just say, hey, it's $400 a month. If they may not even be tumbling rocks, but I don't want to be left holding that if it's a major, major cost. Not just if it could be in the contract somewhere, I think that'd be wonderful. That's it.
Yeah, if that's the wish of council, then you could amend this agreement to include that language. And I don't think it would be objectionable to the Rock Tumbling Club. I think they would be willing to accept that.
Okay, so are we looking then at this with a little amendment to that? Okay, we'll come back to that. Go ahead, Councillor Rudenberg.
So I have a question. When the Baker Creek Enhancement Society was using the upstairs, they were running tanks for their fishes all the time. So I kind of equate it to that because those were 24/7, 365, correct? Because they were raising salmon and things like that. So did we have anything in the agreement with those guys because of their usage of hydro?
No, like I say, we just estimated what the cost was. I mean, in the case of the Baker Creek Enhancement Society, they have been there for many, many years. So, we were able to base that on, data that, had happened over a period of time. I suppose these are new tenants, so we don't know what their use will be, and we don't know what their consumption of electricity will be. If we see marked swings in our electrical bills, either a massive decrease or increase, we could have language in the agreement as proposed that allows us to address that while the agreement is in place.
Okay, so is everyone okay with that, with staff incorporating that language into the agreement that basically says that, if there is a large upswing or downswing in hydro, that can be addressed? Okay, go ahead. Are you looking, Councillor Vic, did I see your hand?
Do we need to formalize that with a motion, or?
Yeah, I'm looking for.
Okay, well,
You're
I'll make
moving that, and Councillor Runge, are you seconding it? And then
Yeah, but I would just really want it with an upswing. There was extra staff time to do all this. All I'm worried about is that if it goes way over, that it can get adjusted. If it's way under, we've already put a ton of staff time in to that $1,500. It's like nothing. So just keep it at, if it goes over. If I was running this, I'd be fair with that. It'd be fair. It would just be an overage that I'd be worried about.
I did it that way just to see if you were paying attention, and you are, and you're regular scrupulous yourself. So there you go. So we have a motion on the. Yeah, I have you seconding,
Mayor?
Councillor Runge.
So you have an existing motion, Runge and Rudenberg?
Oh, pardon me. Yes, Rudenberg. I'm sorry. All right. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
And then I'll make another motion, Mr. Mayor, that we add language in the agreement that allows to adjust utility rates as required every year.
I apologize. I thought that was built into this last motion, and it wasn't. So, okay. Seconder then? No seconder? Councillor Runge is second. Yeah, Councillor Runge is seconding. Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Elliott.
Yeah, this one for me is just a little bit weird because all of the power is going through one. I mean, how could you differentiate? Maybe they get another popcorn machine in there. So I don't see how you can really tell the difference. They could ramp it up in the concession, and there could be a change.
Okay, we're going to go back to Councillor Runge.
So I guess this is going forward, Councillor Elliott. I really believe that we as a city have to start looking at electric consumption of our rental facilities. We've historically have had big blocks that we've allowed to, and so this might start here. I would actually ask for the same thing at the RV park if we're running, charging stations for trucks. If we're running any place that has a charging station outside, yes, I'd be starting to ask, are we covering our costs? That's all I'm asking for. Going forward, because there's so much more electric usage and all these different types of things, it's easy to put plugs in for vehicles and stuff. So going forward, I'm going to be asking, I guess, just that gets covered. It could be pretty standard in all of our contracts. And then if it goes way up, it's okay. It's shared by by the people that are using it. It's not about trying to get more money off them. It's just trying to make sure that we cover our costs. That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, just to reiterate, if the cost goes up, how do we know necessarily that it comes from them? What if another piece of equipment is put in the concession, or they're using the vacuum 4 times a month or something? I don't think that it's fair in this circumstance. In the RV park, I can see that for sure, because you don't have different entities using it. It's just one. But with this one, how can you tell which one's using more? That's my challenge.
Okay, so where are we going with this? Well, go ahead, Councillor Vic.
I believe Director Norburn said he had some historical data on electrical use prior to this new arrangement, so we could just do a comparison going forward, and if there's an egregious increase in electrical use, well then I don't think it'd be fair to pin that increase on the tenant that's not changed. It would be probably the responsibility of the new tenant.
Yeah, I think that's the internal logic there, is that if a new tenant comes in, particularly if they start using the facility during the off-season when the concession isn't operating and when the washrooms aren't being used, then, clearly that would suggest that the new tenant is the one that's, causing the increase in electrical use. So I think the intent, as I understand it from council, is to look for a significant swing where we suddenly notice that our utility costs have increased significantly, and then that we have the ability to make an adjustment there to correct that.
Thank you for that. I've got a question for you, Jeff, and that is, what is the heat in that building? Is it natural gas or electric?
I believe it's electric.
That's interesting. I guess we're just going to have to watch the meter and see if there is any wild upswing in the power consumption, and if there is, you may be coming back to council with another recommendation. So, okay, so we do have a motion, and it's duly moved and seconded. Okay, I'm going to now call the question. Are we all in favor? Go ahead. Opposed? Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, next one is Admin Report 20/25 2024 Facade Improvement Report. Director Turner to report.
Thank you, Mayor. Through to Council, the purpose is to summarize the facade improvement projects completed and financial rebates provided under the facade improvement program for 2024 and provide an update for the 2025 program. In 2024, all $20,000 of funding was allocated to 5 businesses. However, one project was not completed due to contractor issues. This specific business, however, was only had a small percentage of the funds allocated to them anyway. All completed applications submitted were able to be funded. The City of Quesnel provided $18,032.82 of funding to 4 businesses under the Northern Development Initiative Trust NDIT 2024 Facade Improvement Program. The city also received notice from the NDIT that the Facade Improvement Program will be funded again in 2025, and we have started marketing of that program already. There was a couple of businesses that were looking to be added in for notifications, and we do expect to have a few applications again. Just in history, there is appendixes that show all of the businesses and the improvements that were made, before and after photos showing the improvements to the facades of those businesses. I think it's important to note that we have been doing this for a number of years now, for over the last 10 years. We have supported 30 businesses in the downtown, 2 businesses in West Quesnel, 4 businesses in South Quesnel, 5 on 2 Mile Flat, and 1 resident commercial transition zone business. Again, there is a predominance in the downtown area. We are trying very hard to get it out to the other districts, and we'll look to council and our other business communities, the BIAs, the Chamber of Commerce, to also try and assist us with getting that information to the other businesses. And the recommendation is that the council just receives this report.
Yeah, I don't know if we don't need a recommendation to receive. We have received it, so thank you for that. Is there any questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, I now move to Admin Report 21/25 BC Hydro Energy Efficiency Program, and that goes to Councillor Blair to report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to brief council on the various programs and incentives offered by BC Hydro to support small and medium enterprises and large industry in reducing energy consumption, lowering costs, and contributing to a more sustainable future. This information will help council consider opportunities for collaboration and support for local businesses and community initiatives. BC Hydro offers various programs and incentives to support SMEs and large industry to increase energy efficiency and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. There are currently no programs BC Hydro offers local governments that the City of Quesnel can take advantage of. Programs listed on the BC Hydro website are for municipalities with a population of 75,000 and above. The table below provides a high-level overview of programs currently available on the BC Hydro website. It includes incentives such as grant funding, rebates, capacity building, electrification, and energy savings. And there is no recommendation. This report is for information purposes only.
Thank you for that. I have a question before I go to Councillor Rudenberg. Do we have a mechanism whereby we can communicate that out to the business community? Well, I mean, through the Chamber of Commerce, or is there something in place where business could access this, or does Hydro, as a matter of practice, send this out to all businesses?
I think there's a few mechanisms right now. Amy Reed has a blurb on the Economic Development website saying they're just giving a blurb about the overview of the BC Hydro programs. And in the next step section, there was opportunities to submit this to the Chamber of Commerce. There's a few other options as well.
Yeah, because there are some very good incentives out there that the business community could conceivably benefit from. Councillor Rudenberg.
Thank you. In your research, did you find out why there are no incentives to local government under the size of 75,000? Sorry, you're over there, sorry. Was there any kind of explanation?
No explanation. I'm not sure why.
Okay, because what that ties into is I'm not sure what we've got for capital plans for, upgrading electrical, et cetera, here in our community. But perhaps this is an opportunity to do some advocacy or a resolution to UBCM around why we don't have this.
That would be a wonderful UBCM resolution that would garner unanimous support, I'm sure.
So I'd like to make a motion that we design a resolution to send to UBCM in regards to asking BC Hydro to look at communities under 75,000 for their incentives.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Elliott. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions regarding coordinator's report? Seeing none, then, I will now go to Admin Report 22/25, Interconnector Project Assessment Manager Reed to report.
Thank you. The purpose of this report is to request up to $25,000 from the 2025 Council Initiatives budget to prepare an assessment of the provincial benefits of the Interconnector project. Through recent meetings with the city manager, council has identified the Highway 97 interconnector as a top priority for the community. In order to best lobby the provincial government to move forward with the project, a business case must be made to identify the value of the project to the province, not just to the community. This project will use statistical data to look at the share of long-haul, regional, and local highway goods transportation on the route, the value of goods, and the destination of those goods. Other values, including economic efficiency, community, environmental, greenhouse gas emissions, and other indicators would also be examined and reported. Staff will work with consultants to provide all known past reports on the project. The recommendation is that Quesnel City Council approves the use of up to $25,000 from the 2025 Council Initiatives budget to hire consultants to complete an assessment of provincial benefits of the Highway 97 interconnector project in Quesnel.
Okay, thank you for that. This is a good one. We're going to have a mover on this one. Councillor Vic is moving and Councillor Goulet is seconding. As I said, this is important, and I hope that in that report that the content or some summary of the 25 letters and the 7 organic responses come through. This is important not only for it is important for the, obviously for northern British Columbia and British Columbia generally as far as our transportation infrastructure is concerned, but for Quesnel itself, I've got some notes here. Air quality downtown, noise downtown, dangerous goods going through our downtown, particularly in front of many residential complexes and the hospital and the medical clinics and so on. Pedestrian safety, commercial real estate values. In other words, if we can get the heavy industrial traffic off of Front Street and basically reclaim Front Street as our own, and I understand that there will be a cost of that because we're going to be responsible for maintaining that, but I think it would be money well spent. And also, I mean, with the new bypass, or I call it the bypass. I've been around here too long. The interconnector, it will open up development, and we'll see some of the shuttered buildings on Front Street become more viable. So I encourage council to vote in favor of this one. Any other comments? Oh, Councillor Rudenberg.
I must have had coffee before I came tonight. Is really my wish or hope that when it comes time to pick the consultant, that they have an expertise that has a northern lens to it. I know we can't pick and choose who applies, for these jobs or whatever, but I really hope that they have a northern lens that understands the importance of that transportation corridor.
That is a very good point, and I'm sure we'll be paying attention to that one. I like, go ahead, Councillor Runge.
Oh yeah, just adding to it, because if we don't get that, let the in-house staff do it. They'll do a better job.
Councillor Vic.
Thank you, Mayor. The list that you rattled off was extensive, Mr. Mayor, but the one extra lens to add to that is in light of our neighbors to the south and their changing attitudes towards tariffs and so on, there's going to be a tremendous pivot in interprovincial cooperation, and the better our infrastructure is to connect the north with other provincial jurisdictions, the better situated everyone is in this province.
Okay, thank you for that. And is there anything more on that? Okay, so we have a motion, and it's duly moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. I'd just like to take this opportunity to, I was going to recognize Adam, but now the Sheldon Clare, our new MLA, is here, and that's great to see you here. So thank you. And it's good that you're here in the building. Okay. So we've done the interconnector. Now we go to the last city staff report, and this is admin report 24/25 reciprocal building inspection services agreement with the Caribou Regional District. We go to Director Turner for this report.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this report is to obtain approval to revise and renew the 2019 Caribou Building Inspection Services Agreement with the Caribou Regional District. The city requires relief building inspection services from time to time and have also provided the same to the Caribou Regional District. This is an update to that agreement for the receipt of those services. This agreement provides assurance of coverage for building inspection services when there is unanticipated shortages of resources in the city's building inspection department, and also provides the opportunity to provide the same to the CRD, which we've seen in the past. The additional benefit of retaining this agreement is the collective collaboration of the building inspection resources in the community, or in the region. Our building inspectors throughout the region work closely together, and having these agreements also facilitates that. As per the delegation authority bylaw, council must approve a contract with another level of government by resolution. That's why this is here tonight. The city, just to let you know what's going on with this agreement, it is based on the 2019 agreement. There's just some changes to some language in there. It's really some pretty minor language changes and organizational changes, but the rates of service found in the Schedule B have been updated to reflect current costs, which of course have increased. We feel that those costs are reasonable for the amounts that will be going back and forth. And as said, these will be rates we'll be charging, as well as will be charged to us. The recommendation is that council authorizes staff entering into a revised reciprocal building inspection services agreement with the Caribou Regional District.
Okay, thank you, Director. Can we get a motion on the floor, and then we'll open it up to discussion? Councillor Elliott is moving. Councillor Rudenberg is seconding. Is there any discussion? Hearing or seeing no requests for that, then I call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. That concludes our staff reports. Now we move to the council information package, and there is an amendment to the face page because there's an additional item. Is there anyone that I haven't seen any evidence of anyone wanting to bring anything forward? So we have no correspondence, and under bylaws we have bylaw number 1970, City of Quesnel False Alarm bylaw number 1970 of 2024, calling for a vote or a resolution for final adoption. Moved Councillor Goulet, seconded Councillor Vic. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so we have no new business, no changes to upcoming meeting schedule, no changes to committee appointments, announcements and events. Anything? I'll mention that this is next weekend will be the 33rd annual Gold Rush Trail Sled Dog Mail Run, unique in all of the world. And I'm glad that the weather is moderating a little bit because I'm out on the trail for 3 days on my sled, so I'm happy to see that it's going to warm up by about 3 degrees. So, okay, gallery questions. No gallery questions? Gallery comments? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so seeing none, then I will call for a motion to adjourn. Moved Councillor Runge. Councillor, who's seconding? Councillor Vic. All in favor? Carried. We stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.